Hi there. The documentary I chose is about polar bears. It was called Face to Face with the Polar Bear. It was about a guy who followed a family of polar bears to the Arctic across kind of a couple years, and just traced them for a while. What was the main field of science studied in the movie? This movie mainly focused on zoology and environmental sciences. They talked a bit about the biology of polar bears, just a little bit, and they also talked a bit about how their environment is being impacted. Give 3 examples of the scientific method. So this was kind of just like the story of this guy following the polar bears with kind of some facts about the polar bears and their environment. So I didn't really see an example. So I didn't, but in a way, kind of the whole thing was an experiment because he wanted to see how they were being impacted by their environment, and he was filming them and taking data and stuff. So that's what I found there. 3 things I already knew about. I knew about the main diet of polar bears. I knew how large polar bears are. I think that's one thing people get surprised about. That was something I'd heard before. And I knew where the polar bears lived. That's pretty basic. 3 things I learned. I learned polar bears are one of the only animals known to hunt and eat humans. It's interesting. I learned that polar bears can regularly swim around 30 miles. And I learned that polar bears usually live very spread out. So what I mean by that is I used to imagine that they would like live in packs or something. And maybe they do in some places, but they're actually quite spread out in the Arctic. Questions. These are 3 questions that I had. So my first question was, how do we know that there's a connection between shifting ice patterns and human emissions? My second question was, what is the purpose of polar bears having black skin if it's all covered up by white fur? Never really understood that. And how are polar bears able to navigate such a large and empty landscape if they travel so far? So like I said, they can swim up to 30 miles, so how do they remember where they came? Because probably all the scent would be washed away. Bad science. I think I may have found a little bit in this film. This is hard, I guess. But I think the guy in the film repeatedly mentioned that like he'd come to a place and there wouldn't be ice when there should have been ice like a week ago or something, based on like the seasons, and he would say that it's because of global warming. While this is definitely possible, he seemed to have been kind of assuming that this was the cause for the change. The Earth is repeatedly cycling in many ways, and to say that human interference must have been the case because there is a change in something that we have only been recording for about 100 or so years just doesn't make sense without further evidence. So if that kind of makes sense, just felt like he was kind of assuming that it must have been because of human presence in the environment, when I feel like it very easily could have just been shifting patterns on the Earth, because everything cycles on the Earth. And that is it. Thank you for watching.